Beat Matt Batrep.
Matthew here from MiniWargaming.com, and this is another Beat Matt Batrep, where somebody challenges me to win this, a $25 gift certificate. Really, it's $25 in points to the online MiniWargaming.com store. Today we have for a challenger, Roy, known as Clicks on the forums, and we are going to be playing Firestorm Armada 500 points. Let's just jump right into it, start showing you the armies, and we're just going to do a regular scenario with victory points, meaning that we just try to destroy each other, and whoever has the most victory points at the end will win. So I hope you enjoy this battle report. We're going to jump right now into the armies and deployment.
Since this is only a 500-point game, Roy decided to bring in just the regular Terran starter fleet, so he's got that all painted up for this game. And so with the starter fleet, pretty much with any of them, comes with 2 groups of frigates, and each of them are 3 ships strong. So there's one group right here on the one flank, and here's the other group on the other flank. Now these aren't deployed quite yet, this is just to show you what they are. Leading it is the big battleship, and being escorted, of course, by 3 cruisers. These are separate squadrons, so there's 4 squadrons in total. And so he's brought the normal force, because we're only playing 500 points, there were no point room for fighters. On my side, I decided to go for something different, just to experiment, because I've only ever played at the battle boxes, so I don't know if this was a good idea or not. But leading the charge will be a heavy cruiser with 2 cruisers in a squadron together, with a second squadron of cruisers, and then 3 squadrons of frigates. That makes for 70% cruisers, which is the maximum allotment for the Aquan Prime. So this is exactly 500 points. So for the board, what we did was set up 2 groups of asteroids. The yellow tape measure marks the 4-foot line. And so these are, remember, area terrain. The asteroids aren't really to scale. Nothing's really to scale in this game. So it just shows where the groups of asteroids are. So we're going back and forth with our deployment. My main strategy here was to drive up with my frigates, a couple groups of frigates with the cruisers in support, and have a 3rd group of frigates flank around the other side. I was really hoping to be able to get the cruisers up at full strength to be able to then drop their mines and get their payload out there, because they all can drop 4-point mines. And I thought if I can get up there and start dropping that in the midst of the cruisers and the frigates, I'd be able to do a lot of damage. And so I positioned my guys that way, the asteroids providing cover for one group of frigates moving around the flanks. So I was hoping to be able to drive up in the middle, and because of the condensed, everybody forcing to the middle, that might allow me to use my mines to their maximum capability. So the Terrans won the first initiative roll, and so they get to activate first. So Roy decided to start with his cruisers, moved them up their full distance and turned them slightly so that he could have them all fire on the heavy cruiser. He considered that to be the biggest threat, which of course it is, as it's the strongest ship, although it's not much stronger than a regular cruiser. Unfortunately for him, none of the shots hit and did any damage to the heavy cruiser. So now I have a chance of moving up a group of frigates, and then going to try to take advantage of the fact that his cruisers are now up in the open, because frigates, when they start to link fire, can actually do some good damage. So they're all going to target the frigate on the port side, and they actually managed to inflict a critical hit with linking fire and did some damage. I think they also blocked the bays, but we didn't mark that because it didn't really matter, as he wasn't a carrier and wasn't going to be launching any fighters or any assaulters that turn. So he moved up his frigates now that he saw the opportunity to have some retribution, and he really managed to do some damage here. He opens up fire, and he damages one ship, and then he damages another with another shot. He actually decided to split fire rather than link fire here, which worked out to his advantage. It's a bit of a risk, because you don't have a lot of shots. But he damaged 2, then destroyed 1, and then he linked all his torpedoes together, and unfortunately my point defense didn't do anything, and he managed to finish off the other one. So he really managed to do damage there, kill 2 frigates, and damage the other one, which I was not thinking that he would be able to do so easily. So he got some really good rolls there. And so I moved up my heavy cruiser along with the other 2 cruisers next. Now I actually turned it the wrong direction, because I do want my 4 weapons facing the frigate, so I'm going to turn them around in just a second when I realize that. And so just right here, I realized I turned it in the wrong direction, so they face the other direction, because the Aquan Prime cruisers are actually strongest in their front. Now, they do have good side weapons as well. And so I'm targeting the frigates there that are now in the open, figuring that I'd better take out all his smaller ships to weaken all of the attacks he can do. I actually managed to critical on 2 of them and destroyed them, and then firing the torpedoes as well, which I believe he then negated with a shield, because his Terran frigates actually get a shield. Yes, he negates it right there with with his shields. It's incredibly ridiculous that Terran frigates have shields. It actually saves him a lot in this game. He moves up his big mammoth battleship next, and these things are strong. He's got a turret that at range band 2 has 12 dice, and he's opening fire on the heavy cruiser, hoping to do more than just one critical. Unfortunately for him, he only did one critical, not a double critical, but it did do drive damage, so I'm only able to move forward 2 inches next turn. So already a lot of damage is happening, although round 2 is always the bloodiest, I find, with Firestorm Armada. So moving on, my frigates next then moved up, trying to find some targets. Unfortunately, they're a little further behind, so they're out of the longer ranges, because they only have a couple long-range weapons. Everything else is range band 2. And they failed to really do any damage here, as I just cannot seem to roll more than a couple of hits. Even against the frigate would have been good, but here I only did 2 hits, so it's not enough to really do any damage. So he then respawns by moving up his last squad of frigates, and at 500 points there's maneuvering, but the game's less tactical than I would like to see, although it definitely didn't matter which ones you activate first. And so his frigates are now firing at my frigates, hoping to whittle them down, and he actually managed to finish off that last one with a critical hit, and then fired a few of his torpedoes and other weapons at the rest of the frigates that were there. So we're just going to see the results of that, and none of them were damaged. And we're actually, no, this is the point defense responding, and so I was able to stop a lot of the shots, so I don't think any damage happened, or it might have been just 1 point instead of a critical. That's what happened. And instead of a critical, the point defense brought it down to just a regular damage. But still, even doing 1 damage to a frigate is substantial, as that's 1 out of 2 of their hull points, and it makes all their weapons have 1 less to shoot. So I have my small group of 2 cruisers here, hoping to do some damage. So I targeted a long range, and managed to get 2 6s in there, which is always nice to see. Only got to roll 4 dice, and yet managed to pull off 6 hits there. And so with that, even with the shields did reduce it from a critical down to just doing a single point of damage, which makes a big difference. And then lastly, because I have more ships and he activated first, I have a couple activations. So my frigates are just going to move at full speed and turn and try to move their way around the asteroid field. And let's take a look at the recap then. You can see everybody's moving up towards the center, avoiding the asteroid fields because you don't want to go inside them. You just can't shoot very well and you can't move very fast. And so at this point, he's destroyed 3 of my frigates, damaged my heavy cruiser, damaged another frigate, and so that gives him a total of 60 points. And I've destroyed 2 of his frigates, and then I've damaged 2 of his cruisers, so I thought I was doing pretty good. I was kind of worried that because of this configuration that I was going to have a lot of extra success. But we're going to stay tuned for round 2, where you can see what happens with Terrans versus Aquan Prime.
Visit miniwargaming.com to see our videos 1 month early.